camera when they get home from school, just to be able to be there to kind of talk to their dad about what they're doing. Also, the gentleman who you saw talking to his son who was reading, one of the things that I didn't include that wasn't edited out of there was he said his son used to come during visitation and his son would always want him to read that book to him. And he was reading to him again for the first time in some time, and now his son is reading it to him. So that's just kind of the impact. And we get a lot of feedback that we're getting from the parents is that children are interested in reading now. They want to, they're motivated to do it because they get an opportunity to do it with their parents. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question.
Sure.
Have y'all, I mean, this is wonderful. I love these videos. Have y'all allowed them, like, when they're seniors, to maybe watch their kids' graduation?
3+ years.
Have y'all done anything like that? Like, you know, if they've been through the program and now their kids graduating, well, of course they can't be there, but can they zoom in and see that?
Oh, that'll be great. Listen, if y'all can facilitate that for us, that'll be a great opportunity, right?
Oh, they couldn't.
I'm sorry. The question was, go ahead.
Yes, I asked if their kids are going through the process. Once they're seniors, can the parents zoom in and watch them graduate?
That'd be awesome.
That'd be awesome.
That's a
That'd
great.
be a great.
Yeah, and we haven't. You know, those are things that, I mean, those opportunities haven't been presented to us. But on a case-by-case basis, we'll definitely, if the school is willing to facilitate that access and to kind of make it work, if we get the permissions and everything on our end, that's something that we'd be willing to entertain and help facilitate. Yes, sir. Alexander, over there, gentleman over
Yeah,
there.
so my question is, let's say that the dad withdrew from the program. The dad get withdrew from the program. Okay, what happened to that child?
No, that's a great question. If the dad withdraw from the program, what we ultimately hope, if they're still incarcerated, if individuals withdraw from the program and they are still incarcerated, we're hoping that the skills and the things that we've introduced to them, that they be willing to continue that and take advantage of it on their own time. But we're just not able to facilitate these opportunities anymore if they're no longer.
So, but the effect that will have on the child.
Oh no, that's a great point. It is so consistency matters in this program. I want to talk a little bit about that a little bit later. We talk to our program participants about not perpetuating disappointment and being available and focusing on their discipline. There's a lot of competing interests the day that men step on a unit in a prison unit. There's a lot of stuff and a lot of things happening. So we tell them that those same pressures and those same temptations are going to exist when they go back home in their environments. So they have to start practicing that. But the impact that it could have could be detrimental to that child. I agree. Yes, sir.
I just want to add to that, more often we have caregivers that drop out of the program more so than the men. That's something that we have to deal with, and we kind of reach out to them to try to kind of motivate them to stay in, but sometimes we just can't do it.
Go ahead, Ms. Taylor.
And real quick, some of the reasons why they would not be in the program is if the co-parent withdraw her consent or they phase out, graduate, but most times they're staying in because they are just as invested in this as the children are.
Sure. That's a great point. Yes, ma'am.
So, when you have illegal immigrants, I don't know if you've had any situations where sometimes they get incarcerated and then they get transferred to like a detention unit. Do you still work with ICE or?
Yeah, so usually individuals who have ICE detainers, we are able to screen for that. The question was, how do we deal with individuals who may be in a program who have an ICE detainer? Meaning they're going to be transitioned into federal custody after their release or before their release. We generally don't enroll those individuals due to that nature. Anybody who have those custody arrangements, we try to avoid enrolling them in the program. Yes, sir.
I was just curious about if a child's in protective services and they still, protective services says, well, it's beneficial for the child to still communicate with the parent. Are those opportunities available?
Yes.
Let's say if they're temporary foster care or something of that nature.
Yes, sir. In that case, the custodial parent in that case will be CPS. They operate as the custodial parent, and they can facilitate that. Now, again, that program participant, the incarcerated parent will still have to be approved, they have to be screened and approved. But generally, one of the challenges we've had, without getting too deep into weeds, is those individuals who have open CPS cases involved, it is very difficult because the circumstances around those cases makes it very difficult for us to enroll them in the program. Okay? Let me just go over a little data. I know I talked to you all about the program, and I want to kind of make sense of why this is relevant and why we do what we do with respect to this program. So according to the Bureau of Justice, the Bureau of Statistics, Department of Justice, on average, we have about 1.4 million people that are incarcerated, right? Let's just say nationwide, not here in the state of Texas, but just nationwide. Of those individuals, about 684,000 are parents, okay? 684,000 of our incarcerated population are parents, equaling and totaling somewhere around 1.4 million children that are impacted. If you all wanted to know what that 1.4 billion is, we can take that population, we can take all those children, and we can fill an entire state, some of our states. That would exceed the population of some of the states that we have here in this country right now. So that's a large population of individuals that are impacted, children that are impacted in general. Here in the state of Texas, that's the wrong slide. All right, anyways. So so far we've had about 400. Let me be consistent with it. I don't think that's a good transition for that. That's what happened when other people are editing your slides. Y'all send that complaint to my communications department for me, okay? So about, still not it. So we did a survey here within the state of Texas to kind of just to look at the population and how we're impacted. We had a survey of we surveyed every parent at the unit, right? We basically surveyed them. And it was about a population sample that we got back of about 10,000. So of 117 incarcerated individuals, we got a survey response back from about 10,000, right? And of that 10,000, about 47% indicated that either they had a parent, this is our population, those individual adults that are incarcerated, indicated that they had a parent or they had a sibling who was incarcerated. So you talk about the intergenerational nature of incarceration and why we're trying to tackle this issue. It's because there are so many people who grew up with either a mother or a sibling that was incarcerated, okay? And I'm gonna find it way after the fact, right? Of our program participants, this is where you all are involved a little bit more. So for our program participation, we've had about 427 parenting class completers, about 470 total enrolled from 2001 until now. We've had a total of about 477 individuals who participated in the program. Of that, 427 completed the program. The amount of children that were impacted, that we've obtained signed consent for, is over 600 students, 606 children. So that's about 606 children that's dispersed throughout the state of Texas who we've obtained signed consent for to participate in this program. About 98% of whom are in the K-12 system. Okay? And we facilitated over 1,000 interactive activities. That's reading activities, whether it's homework, tutoring, whether it's just a motivational call to call your child and say, hey, how are you doing? Let's look at your grades, let's talk about it. Whatever it may be, we facilitated over 1,000 interactive activities between program participants and their children. Participants. So the age range of our participants is just some background and demographic. The age range of our program participants, the vast majority of them, of our program participants between the ages of 30 and 39. We typically don't have guys who are, or we have had guys who are who are 22 or younger, who we've had that had children that were in the program. But we don't have a lot of them. But I'll tell you that number of those individuals between the age of 22 and 28 kind of makes me a little nervous, in part because data will show, I don't have that here, but data will show that those individuals 28 and under are more likely to recidivate. These are the ones who are more likely to come back to prison after they release, even after having programming. So, about 40 of our children enrolled in the program, about 47% of them are in elementary. They're in the elementary school range. The other 35% are in sort of middle school, and the rest, is about 18%, are in high school. So the vast majority of our program participants and the children that are impacted through this program initially are those individuals who are in elementary, the kids who are in the elementary school phase. Location. How many of y'all are from the Harris County, the Houston area, metropolitan area there? So the vast majority of our program, what about the Dallas-Fort Worth? Dallas-Fort Worth, San Antonio, Bexar County, okay. Anybody from Lubbock, El Paso?
Dallas.
Oh, back there. So the vast majority of our program participants, where our children we have in this program, the vast majority are from the Harris County, Harris, Galveston, and Montgomery County area. And obviously the second largest population we have is the Dallas-Fort Worth. And surprising to me, I was pulling the data and seeing it was like I saw it was Lubbock and El Paso had a large population. They were one of the ones, even more than what we had in Austin, Texas. So, so if you all, so those of you, when we talk about reaching out and some of these are the areas that we have a large population that we're represented in the program. I'm sorry, did you have a question for me? No? Engaging justice involved families. Just some things that I want to just share with you all. Just some things that that you all will be mindful of as family engaged people who deal with families and deal with families with sensitive issues. And one of which may be families that are impacted by incarceration. Some things to know. How much time do I have? So some common parental characteristics. So these are things that we picked up on every year. So starting a couple of years ago, we started what is called a family literacy day, right? This is when we kind of have our coordinators who are here. They plan and prepare a day in which children and caregivers, they come on to the prison unit. We have a designated area where we have interactive activities, games, and things that they can do with their parents, painting, all of the fun stuff. We supply a meal and they come together for a couple hours going into the school year, hopefully offering a positive experience going into the school year. And they come together on Family Literacy Day. Also, during that time, while we have parents there with us, we facilitate what we call caregiver focus groups. All right, we do caregiver focus groups where we pull the parents and we talk with them and we get feedback about the program, how well the program participants, that is the incarcerated parents, are doing, and most importantly, how well the children benefited from the program. So we are able to get information from them. And this is where I kind of pull some of this information in terms of what are some of the challenges with the families, okay?
How long have y'all been doing this?
We're 3.5 years in now. 3.5 years. We started in 2021, and we're still going strong. Yes, ma'am.
For parents who have multiple children, you separate time for each child, or you guys them all together?
Yes, so the question was for program participants, incarcerated parents who have multiple children, do we separate different times for them? Yes. There's, in some instances, we have some guys who have as many as 9 kids. Yeah, I should show y'all a picture for Family Literacy Day, right? But yeah, what we do, we are able, our coordinators will work and they'll facilitate those interactive activities for various kids. I think what we see in some cases, families try to work together a little bit. You know, have the kids in the same place. In some cases, I don't want to overstate that. I think some things that I think are important to know when you all are dealing with incarcerated, with families or caregivers who have incarcerated spouses, or children whose fathers are incarcerated or mothers who are incarcerated, whichever way it may be, I think it's important to know that what we found out is that there seems to be a support system with the extended families. Oftentimes when we do Family Literacy Day, it's not always the mother of the child or the father of the child who comes to Family Literacy Day. Sometimes it's grandma, it's uncle, it's auntie. There are other people who support the kids that are usually involved with the children. So I think that's a point to note for when trying to interact and trying to obtain information. I think they appreciate for us. I think parents in general, caregivers, appreciate schools having high expectations of their children. I think sometimes they worry that schools find out that their parents are incarcerated and it's the, oh, poor baby, and you kind of sit and you lower expectations. I think they try to shield their kids from that, and they're mindful of that. So that's something that they try to, that has been expressed to us in some way or another. What's that? Revised education expectation. I'm sorry, I wish I had my glasses to be able to read that. Varied education perspectives. Oh, that's what that is. I don't want to touch on that right there. Some of the challenges. So some of the challenges that we have with our program participants is availability. When we talk with it is something important that I think is important and worth noting. When we talk with so a lot of our coordinators will schedule interactive activities between program participants, incarcerated parent, and the children. And usually those hours are between the hours of 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock, in which we're facilitating these interactive activities. So it's generally not during the school hours. And sometimes parents are just dealing with life, right? Like they had to pick the child up from after school activity. They're fighting through traffic. They have to pick up something to eat for the other kids. And then they have to get the child in front of his computer to talk to dad or to do homework or whatever it is. And sometimes life just be life in y'all. And they just can't do it sometimes. And we have a responsibility as coordinators to communicate to our program participants, our incarcerated parents, and let them know that that's what's happening. Like they have life that they're dealing with, to kind of temper and manage their expectations of where caregivers should be and why they shouldn't necessarily be upset about that. Social emotional needs for the children. I know we hear our caregivers. Okay, I know we hear our caregivers talk a little bit about their concern about the social emotional needs for their children, and how the impact of their fathers or their mothers being gone can is impacting their behavior altogether, or their emotional needs. Yes, sir.
No, pointing to the monitors.
Okay. Oh, there it goes. Okay, that makes sense, Alexander. Thank you, sir.
Don't need no gas.
Okay. So what are some common characteristics for our children, right? What are some common characteristics for our children? Some of the things that we've noticed when it comes to our children is that, again, we talked about the parents' experience with social emotional needs. There are some children who are experiencing some serious, when you talk about self-esteem, confidence. For example, like we're all family here, we're all educated, so I trust you all with a level of confidence, right? The young lady who we saw on the video, right, who was interacting with her dad, right, and she was talking with him. So here's the issue. She would go to school and she talked with her dad about, hey, when my friends are at school and everybody's around, they're talking about what they did with their dad over the weekend. And I feel excluded from that conversation. Right? Like I don't feel a part of it, and she's kind of dealing with that, and she's expressing to her dad how that makes her sad, how that makes her feel left out. So the opportunity for her to do this with her dad gives her something to talk. Like, hey, I did this with my dad, and it makes her be a part of the conversation. So this is one of the benefits that we're learning through this program for the children. We talked about isolation, but I'll tell you, these kids are very, very resilient. One of the things that I'll give you an example of a kid who came. We had Family Literacy Day, and she said to us, there was a young lady who came to me just this summer, and she said, I didn't know there were other kids like me. I didn't know. She was like, look, you see that boy there? He's my age, and he looks like me, and his parents are here too. They're wearing all white, and that sense of identification and understanding that they're not alone kind of address some of the issues with that isolation. And that's one of the things that we're learning at Family Literacy Day, one of the benefits of Family Literacy Day and what it do for us, that resilience, that I would address in isolation. The resilience of the program, kids are, when they are there with their fathers or their mothers and they're working towards something, they're consistent and adamant about it. They're showing up and they're putting in the work. There was a kid, I know Ms. Dennis will probably, we can talk about it. There was a kid, his father, he was making a B in Spanish. His father learned Spanish on his own some way and been in the system, right? And he would tutor his son in Spanish. And he got his grade up to what, a B or a C, Ms. Dennis? He worked his way up to a B. He's on the call twice a week with his dad and working on it. He's tutoring them on Spanish. So I mean, the resilience that they have. And the gentleman talked about consistency. There was a gentleman there, he asked about consistency of the program. We try to, one of the things we hammer, and I know on my end, from an administrative perspective, I always remind my fellow coordinators about consistency, about guys continue to be present, to conduct themselves accordingly so they are present as they are scheduled to. The kids rely on it. Again, we talked about a young lady who's coming there, she wants to be a part of a conversation, she's trying to create those memories. They're relying on their parents to be there. And when the fathers are not, and when we're inconsistent, and when there's inconsistency, because it happens in the Department of Corrections, you have restrictions, there's restricted access, there are things that happen where we have to cancel interactive activities and things of that nature. Sometimes that just happen, and that can, it pisses parents off, it makes the children upset, and we try to avoid that at all costs. So we try to honor the commitments that we have with the families when we're scheduling interactive activities. And if there was an area, if I may, I'll talk a little bit about the program benefits, and then I'll transition, and I'll kind of open it up for discussion, because I know y'all have quite a few questions. So the program benefits. One of the things that I would point out as a program benefit is I see this as a proactive approach that we're taking. I know it's a reactive situation, like guys have already committed the crimes, the separation from the families have already happened. But it's a proactive measure in that we're equipping them with the skills that they haven't had before. We're facilitating access to the children, parental engagement to some degree, and they're doing some things that they're learning skills that will help them transition to the community. So in that regard, I think it's a proactive approach. We're able to promote literacy. One of the things we learn, children are reading more through this program. Some of our caregivers through our focus groups, they're saying, look, this child, he would not pick up a book and read it. Rather it's video game. They will now pick up a book and read it because they want to be able to tell their dad what the book is about, or their mom what the book is about. So they're reading more, and we've been successful in that regard. We're facilitating the opportunity for parenting for our incarcerated parents, and the regain of trust. I can't tell you how much, when that separation occurs, when that separation happens, there's a lack and there's a lapse in trust. And trust me, it's when we see guys for the first time who haven't talked to their kids in 3, 4, 5 years. And the first time they're seeing them again is in front of a Zoom, and they're talking about reading a book, right? Mm-hmm. Guys have to do work, because that book is not going to repair that trust that's been broken. And there's work and consistency that they have to do, and they have to continue to work on to build and to regain trust. I think one of the benefits is partnerships with communities, community organizations and other individuals who are interested in the program, who wants to provide support. We really, and one of the things that as a person who work on providing resources to this program, is I look for community partners to kind of provide supports and services. And we work with an organization, a not-for-profit organization, who's been very, very supportive of our program and supporting the caregivers in particular. focusing on the caregivers, those individuals, whether it's back to school clothes drive, uniforms, and things of that nature, supporting the families. We've been able to work and partner with them to do some things like that. And accountability is a big it's accountability for the program participants. They're accountable to their children for the first time in their life, many of them, and the children, in some way or another, they're accountable to their parents because their father for the first time, or their mother is asking them about their grades, how they're coming along with homework. And there's some accountability that translates to academic outcomes in the schools. With that being said, are there any questions? Any questions anybody may have? A couple of questions back there. I have questions for y'all.
I guess my question is, if we know a parent, I'm in an elementary school, if we know a parent or a child of a parent that is incarcerated, do we just call you first, or how do we approach it so that introduce the program to them?
Yes, if you know that there's a parent or someone incarcerated, I have my number. That's my contact information right there. If you have anybody with a window card, and I know one of my colleagues here, Ms. Taylor, has been passing out a card to giving information. Y'all can contact me, and what I'll do is I'll start the referral process. I'll get their information, and we'll vet them, and we'll see if they're eligible to participate in the program. But yes, and we are currently working on a referral form just for that. So family members, school districts can refer someone to the program, in the program, yes.
So do we talk to the parent about,
Yeah, so if you know that
or
a
the
child,
caregiver?
so I don't know what your protocols are at the district level, right? And whatever your protocols are for having those conversations, if you like the parent to know this, hey, we know someone at Wyndham School District who does this program that may be great for your child based on whatever you talk to the child about or whatever they're sharing. Sure, you're more than welcome to have that. I would advise you to maybe have that conversation with the caregiver.
And how many, do you do a couple of hours a week? Do they visit with them a couple hours a week, or does that work?
Almost as often as they can, as the caregiver can. We try to facilitate it as often. There are some people who are meeting with their kids twice a week.
And then is it certain hours
30
that they
minutes.
meet with them?
Again, we base the scheduling coordinators. I wouldn't say coordinators are often based the scheduling off the caregiver's availability. So yeah, those hours can range between the hours of between as early as 6 o'clock in the morning to as late as about 6 o'clock at night.
I think what she asking, like the time limit, 30 minutes is typically the minimum.
Oh, the time frame for interaction is what you're asking, or the time frame in which these events occur? Oh, well, each interactive, we don't go over 30 minutes for them, but they're 30 minutes, and the time range in which they happen between 6 a.m. as early as 6 o'clock in the morning to as late as 6 o'clock at night.
Hi, I'm from Ailey. My question is, I saw that for the purpose of this video, you were recording them, but
Yes.
when they do Zoom calls with their children, are those recorded as well so you guys can monitor?
Yes, so all of our interactive activities between the program participant and the children are recorded. Yes, they are recorded, and we do it for our own security purposes as well. So there's two. It's just for security purposes, to make sure that we're able to capture anything that may have happened that we may be liable for, but two, for educational purposes. So all of our coordinators are required to do debriefings with the program participants after these recordings. Do you have another question before I go?
I do.
I
was kind of lost mine.
Sure.
But I was gonna say, now are they only Zoom calls or are they also personal visits?
So we only facilitate Zoom calls, is what we're facilitating. The only time we're facilitating an in-person visit is on our Family Literacy Day. Okay?
Can I add to that, ma'am? That question you asked about the recordings, we don't share them though. We don't share those recordings unless he's using them for the purpose of this with consent of the co-parent.
And I'll come to you right after.
So I was thinking about the protocols as a school district. School district have thousands of protocols. Yeah, among them is the privacy of the information of the students. So, according with your experience, how do these districts share the information with you about having a kid with a dad or mom that's incarcerated, what is that is privacy.
Yeah, so we don't obtain this information from the districts. We obtain this information from our program participants and the caregivers. So in order for anyone to enroll in the program, there's an application that they have to complete. And it'll tell us what school district the child is in, what grade they're in, and their name. So all the information that we get is from the caregiver or the program, the incarcerated parent.
But I mean, in order to make the contact, so how do I make I know that I have 3 parents that are incarcerated
Okay.
in my school, in my
Okay.
district. So how can I make them to contact you?
I see.
Without the privacy of the information. I don't want to say, okay, this mom, her husband is there in the jail, and they really want the services because that's a privacy thing right there.
Yeah, so what I would recommend, and this is my recommendation, again, I would advise you to follow your district protocol when it comes to confidentiality and things of that nature, is to maybe offer that information to the parent, like, hey, we know that your child may be impacted by incarceration. We are aware of this program that does X, Y, and Z. Here's some information, or we can give you a contact if you're interested.
Okay, and the last question, I'm sorry, about the videos, the Zoom videos that you record. You say that you record the videos for security purposes. Is somebody from the organization during the meetings in the call as well?
Yes.
Supervising that information that they provided is already
That is correct.
education oriented.
So the coordinators who are around, I'm going to introduce them to y'all in a minute. They're standing all around, but the coordinators, they're always there monitoring. They're the ones who have access to that button to stop it. If something inappropriate is going on and the kid go and walk around, trust me, this happened. And it's not anything extremely inappropriate. It's just the kid may go and walk around and you see everything that's happening in the house and we'll stop the video or whatever. But yeah, there's always, the coordinators are responsible for monitoring everything that's going on there. Yes.
Hi, I'm from Conroe Independent School District. I don't know if you've already said this, but if you have, I apologize. But do you all work with students in residential treatment centers and other students that are in maybe CPS custody?
CPS custody, we have worked with kids who are in the custody of CPS. However, we've come very close. There was a kid who was in TJJD custody. He was in a juvenile. He was in a juvenile residential facility, and the father was also incarcerated. But again, on our end, we would welcome that facilitation of communication. It's usually the other agencies who's usually the barrier to that, but we do welcome that, absolutely.
Do y'all ever have any of the kids rebel because of their family being locked up?
What's that?
The kids, do they rebel while they're in the program, or do we see a manifestation of it during videos? Or
In videos that their parents, one of their parents are locked up. Do you ever have any of the kids that are kind of rebel against them?
Yeah, I think we know of cases where kids were kind of on the borderline and they were in need of some supports, and they just they just stopped the communication. And sometimes that happens. It doesn't happen as much. It's not as common, but I think there are instances in which that may have happened. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make a comment to the gentleman here who asked about how to connect the family. Something that we have in our district is we have a family consent for services. With the parent give permission to you. We do, like me, I do that at the beginning of the year, so I have those in my files at any time. So the parent authorizes me to give the information to these organizations. That's something that maybe you can check with the district if they can do. It has to be reviewed with the legal, but that makes life easy for all of us, and then we can give the resources to the family they need. Or and at the same time, I bring them to my room, and we do the call and the process together with the parent, but we have to sign that consent first.
So, and two things to that, right? And I kind of say this jokingly, but I'm very serious about this. So, our incarcerated parents, and in some cases the caregivers, they do not want, they don't want the school to know, right? That their parents, that they have a parent who's incarcerated. But you want to know what happens on almost every case? The school knows. You want to know how the school know?
Kids
Because
tell.
the child told. So the dad will say to us before a parent-teacher conference call, it's like, oh, I'm a little nervous, and do they know I'm in prison? I was like, yeah, they know you're in prison. The kids probably told them a long time ago. I was like, look, let's just get over that part. They know where you are. The kids had that conversation. They told it. That doesn't mean dismiss the concern of who the caregivers are. There are a couple of instances in which a caregiver there are a couple of instances which the caregiver told the child, your dad is not in jail, he's away at school, or he's away at work. Dad has been gone for about 3 or 4 years.
He's at work.
Yeah, he's at work. So we try to be sensitive to that and respect that as well. Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever have any of the parents, I don't need that.
Okay.
Do you ever have the parents whenever you try to give them help? Do you ever have any of the parents get offended that you're like kind of in their business like that?
No, because again, it's voluntary and there's a consent form that individuals have to fill. So usually we're transparent about what it is that we're wanting and what we're asking the caregiver to consent to, and which children we're asking them to facilitate that access to. So no, if it does occur, it's usually between the incarcerated parent and the caregiver, and those conversations usually don't happen on our watch. That's when they happen what Alexander said when they call on the blue phone. Yes, ma'am.
Do the parents, do they get into like a workshop or like training?
Yeah, so that's one. So that's what. The question is, do the custodial parents, right? The incarcerated parents, do they get a workshop? Yeah. So there's a parenting class it's a curriculum that we have that they go through. It lasts anywhere between 3 to 6 months, depending on what's going on in TDCJ, and they have a parenting class. They're introduced to various topics and scenarios. So yes, there is a class and a course that they go through the very beginning of the class when they first enroll. Yes. Any other questions? Anybody have any other questions?
Can I tell about the phases? Can you
sorry?
tell them about the phases?
Yeah, so I talked to them a little bit about the 3 different phases. Again, one of the ways in which we try to maximize information and getting information from the caregivers or from parents is during our Family Literacy Day. Family Literacy Day, those caregiver focus groups, we ask them questions about how their children are doing. This is where we're learning a lot of information. We collect a lot of anecdotal data. This year, I'm really looking forward to getting actual data showing grades and trends over a period of time to be able to make some correlation between parental involvement and children outcomes. That's something that I'm really hoping to sustain and really be able to do over a period of time. And I have a wonderful team of coordinators. If y'all don't mind standing up if y'all haven't already, all the family literacy coordinators, Ms. Joyner, Ms. Taylor, Mr. Alexander right there. And they are all over the state of Texas. Ms. Dennis is right here in the Sharon area, the Houston area. Ms. Diaz is out in El Paso. Mr. Alexander is out in San Antonio. And Ms. Joyner is up in the Huntsville area. And I didn't forget you, Ms. Taylor. Ms. Taylor is up in the Dallas and the North Texas area. So we have them kind of spread out. And we are looking to expand our program and to provide, to offer this program in more units or campuses, as we call them, throughout the state of Texas. We're looking to expand and offer more to have a wider reach for our program. Yes, ma'am.
Since you started, has anyone actually completed the program? And what is the rate for people who have, I guess, get to see their kids and then come back? Because I know like the returning back, sometimes we see that a lot, right? Because they can't engage in the community. So I guess this is nice to know that at least that's a motivation. They build that relationship with their child, and they can integrate in with the community. So have you seen any of that?
Yeah, I'd have to defer. If I were to ask some of my fellow coordinators, y'all will probably say, have we seen instances in which guys release and they come back into our custody? We have.
Not seen.
Alexander has seen.
I recently had one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it does happen.
But I will point out, it probably doesn't happen as much, in part because of that age range that I told you. Usually at the age of 28 and younger, that's the age where guys recidivate the most. But our population is enlarged. They're between the ages, they're 30 and older. So a lot of guys who are going back, but now I will tell you, we have some guys that are on their third and fourth stint. So, that's, so we have those instances, but a lot of time those guys who are releasing this time around, they're probably less likely to come back. Somebody had their hands raised over here. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
I apologize if you've already mentioned it. What is your funding source?
Question?
It's amazing.
What's the funding source?
Look, I'd have to give my superintendent, Ms. Hartman, Christina Hartman, a lot of kudos to that. She petitioned and she lobbied the state legislator to give us a special line item funding for this. So there's no federal funding attached to this program, no state funding that's attached to it. Maybe I can talk to Matthew a little bit about getting some of that Title I Part A money to support us and kind of justify it, but we don't get any. This is all state allocation that we have through the legislator, which we started this program as a pilot in 2020, 2021, and in 2023, last year, we were able to get that permanent funding for the program. So yes.
Clap, clap, clap.
Yes.
One thing I'd like to point out that you brought up is when we have a program participant, they get to remain in the program as long as their child has not graduated. They're still in a K through 12 school, and the dad has remained major disciplinary case free. So this is another thing, we kind of really rake them over the coals during the interview process before they ever begin, because we know that we're the first defense on their child's heart, because we know they're going to use this program to get back in touch with them. So we really ask some tough questions, and we let them know as soon as you get a major case, you're out. Don't start something that you can't finish. Make sure if you need time to think about it, you think about it. So as long as they're case-free, their children are still in school, they can remain in this program until they're released or the child graduates.
Yep.
So we have a few that they've started from the very beginning. They're kids in kindergarten. They've got a 10-year sentence if they don't see parole. So potentially this could alter and change the whole course of that child's life.
Thank you, Ms. Joyner. And that was which segue to the other point, and that is, you talk about completion. So as long as they're there in as long as the incarcerated parent is in our custody, we'll facilitate that access to the child. We've had instances in which there were kids who were 9th, 10th grade when they started. They transitioned and they went on to college. We actually have 2 kids that are attending the same college at TSU. Learned that through Family Literacy Day. 2 kids that were actually transitioning and went to college last year. I think that was, I'm glad they're in school. It would have been a better idea if they went to a more prominent HBCU and FAMU. I'm sorry. All right, Ms. Davis. Okay. All right, so, but yeah, we've seen children matriculate through the program. Some of them have gone to go and earn their industry certification. There are cases in which kids have gone on and they've transitioned into school. That is the case.
Something to say.
Yes, ma'am. Before we wrap up.
Okay. Real quick, it is just rewarding overall to see the children and how their behavior could possibly change and their grades could possibly raise just because they know that their parents, mother or father, are incarcerated. It's hard to be separated from them on both sides, but it's rewarding to know and to see, and I've seen it. If I can share testimony, one of my particular parents hadn't seen his daughter since she was 2. She was 8 or 9 before he got to have his interactive Zoom call with her. So after the tears, he started to work with her. Her mother expressed that she's very smart but didn't want to do homework. And so he agreed to have a list of her spelling words printed off every week. And she went from not caring about her spelling test and she passed, but she didn't care to study, to coming home excited about studying her spelling words, knowing on Friday morning she was gonna talk to her dad and they were gonna go over her spelling words. That semester, she aced every single spelling test. So,
Thank you, Ms. Taylor.
no problem.
So I got. So I wanna point out two things, but if it's the last thing I'll point out
Some water?
before I leave here. While I was here, I have two colleagues who were here from College Park, right? And we sat down and we met with them, College Station, ISD, and they were we actually collaborated with them early on in the program, and there were a couple of children from their school district who we facilitated parent-teacher conference calls with in their school district. So that was something that actually happened. And I thought it was important to note that I know some people here haven't had that experience, but please, if you all know, or if you all see or hear someone, please go back to your districts and tell them about Wyndham, because some of them probably heard of us. Let me just tell y'all some of the challenges we're having. And that is, I think some of your schools or administrators are seeing this as an extra thing for teachers to do. It is not. We're just asking for a parent-teacher conference. We're not asking them to be a part of a program, to take surveys, to do anything other than just to have a parent-teacher conference with the incarcerated parent, who we have consent to do so for. We have the legal documentation, we have everything we need. We're just asking for teachers to engage in a parent-teacher conference. Can somebody tell me why that might be a problem, why we're not understanding that? What is it that Wyndham needs to understand about the barriers for that? And we got about 2 or 3 minutes left. So Wyndham is having a problem, they be contacting schools, and as soon as we say incarcerated parent, it was like, no, let's talk to the principal.
That's the problem right there.
Oh, I'm saying that, okay.
Yes.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
I was gonna say maybe because there's a situation where mom doesn't want to have dad in contact with that child, and they don't want to interfere. Or, you only see the face of a parent, but you don't know what's going on.
Yeah. And that says we may need to do a better job communicating to schools, because we've already, that caregiver, the parent has already given us consent to do this. Yes, ma'am.
And I think also that upon registration, if the child's father's name is not on the birth certificate, then there is no way to justify that that's the father.
Right.
And that might be a case.
Sure, no. Yes.
I think to piggyback off of that, maybe the fear of the unknown, of not knowing exactly how the program works and what exactly are the benefits.
Can you repeat that so we can hear that?
Yeah, I think it's also like the fear of the unknown, right? Not knowing exactly how the program runs and what are the benefits in the long run. Maybe that's what, people are like, I'm not getting, or anything that has to do with criminal justice, people are like, no way, I'm not getting involved. So maybe that.
Send a letter to the superintendents of the schools. Send a letter to the superintendents of the schools explaining the program and its benefits.
Absolutely. Okay.
Love that.
Thank you.
Love that.
Yes, ma'am. 2 minutes.
I would say for your organization is to get in contact with the district and find out what are the protocols for you all to bid yourself in, pitch your program, let them know what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it. That stands a greater chance than coming to the campuses, because the campuses look at if you're cleared by the district, if you're a vendor or something of that sort, then they're entertaining.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
I got one more, hold on.
That's pretty much what I was gonna say.
But use the mic when you say it.
I was gonna piggyback on her statement. That's basically all I was gonna say. I know when we get court documents, we always send them to the legal department to get approval. And I know that's my fear, at least as a counselor. I wanna make sure legal department gives me the go ahead, because I wanna do my job, so.
Okay. Get clearance through the district. And that kid, the first kid that y'all saw who was reading to his father, we actually had to do that. We went through the whole gauntlet and we got legal involved. It was worth it at the end of the day. Y'all can say, yes, ma'am.
And I'm a counselor as well, and one other resource, we get these books from the CAS workers that has all of these references to refer parents out to, so that may be a good space to put your contact information in there. So when counselors are looking for resources for parents, they can go to that page and say, I know.
And what is that
incarcerated
called?
parent.
Repeat that.
CAS workers, community in schools.
Is that specific to Conroe ISD or do we all have?
No, I don't know if it's, no, I know Spring has it, you have it. Aldine has CAS, Conroe has it, for sure. I don't know other districts.
Okay.
CYS is CAS, and it's like a book of resources for the state of Texas.
Okay.
And we just kind of go in there, and if a parent says she needs mental health for a kid that's been abused, we flip the book, we look it up, and give them a resource for it.
Sure. Yes, sir. Someone else had a question?
No, we got stop
Time's
signs.
up. Yep, time's up. Thank y'all for your time. I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Hey, give it up for my boy